How's it going, everybody? Kenny from Team Moistar here, and today I'm going to be going over the first Paldea Evolved deck on the channel. Now, with NAIC vastly approaching, there's going to be a lot of testing and a lot of decks coming out that may or may not surprise you, a lot of which are new, and you may see the influencers out there start posting them like Tinglu, like Chanpal, maybe even occasionally a live Wo-Chien reaction, but today I'm going to be bringing back an old concept in Regis. Now, this whole concept is based off of Regigigas' ability, Ancient Wisdom, where once during your turn, if you have Regirock, Ice, Steel, Regieleki, Drago, and Gigas in play, you may attach up to 3 energy from your discard pile on one of your Pokemon. So essentially, you get a bunch of energy in the discard pile accordingly. With the new Luminous Energy, because there's so many weird costs, Luminous Energy is as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but only provides one at a time. But the effect cancels out and becomes a colorless cost if there's another special energy attached. So we play one of most of the irrelevant energies. So like if Rock were to attack, Rock needs 2 fighting and a colorless, Regieleki needs lightning and a colorless, Regice needs 2 water and a colorless, Drago needs 2 fire, or 1 grass, 1 fire, and a colorless. This one needs 2 grass and a fire. And then the steel needs 2 metal and a colorless. So the ones that you attack with less frequently, or the ones that aren't as relevant in the meta, you play as one-ofs. So that's the fighting, the metal, the fire, and the water. Not to mention, though, double grass is because not only do we play Regidrago as the main attacker, but the one that I just vastly went over does 240 damage for 2 grass and a fire. If you get this against EX decks, it's pretty much almost game over. If you go if you end up getting this on the second turn of the game going first, this card is a monster. It hits numbers super quick. You can even go some Terra Spark math, and then you can go Dragon Energy to knock out 280 HP V-Stars. So the list is pretty straightforward going into it, and I'm going to be posting the list in the comment section below. We have 2 ice, the split between the Elekis, because this one is in here because Targeted Bolt is still extremely good, being able to snipe stuff on the bench, but Electromagnetic Sonar still grabs you your Super Rod back, which is an older card that was brought back that gave life to this deck once again. You shuffle in any combination of Pokemon. You shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon or basic energies back in your deck, which is really good. So before, we had access to Clara and Miriam, both of which were supporter cards that you may or may not have wanted to use, but with Super Rod, you're able to go Super Rod, Iono, which is another card that got released, which also helps this deck. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. If either player putting any cards on the bottom of their deck this way, each player draws a card for each of the remaining prize cards. So it's a combination of N and Marnie. So it's a very good early game. Essentially, you get 6 cards for free or 5, but then later in the game, it starts to hurt your opponent really bad. Even you, but like you also have this Drago to draw you until you have 4 cards. We do play a 2-1 split of the Drago. We play 2 copies of Energy Search, 2 copies of Escape Rope, Heavy Ball, just as one of 4 Nest Balls, so triple Rod so that we just have access to them when we need them. 2 Switching Cart because Lost Box is still kind of a sketchy matchup. Without Scoop Up Net, they can still damage your board pretty easily. So if they go Cram and then Sableye Ping 1, they can still put 110 damage elsewhere. If they go Halucha, they can knock out a Regieleki somewhere along the board. It gets really bad. Same thing with Kyogre, so that's where the Switch Cart comes in. I've even seen some lists for some reason play a Thornton Manaphy package just for late game Lost Box. 1 copy of Boss and 2 copies of Serena. It's a little bit on the lighter side of Gust, but it's still okay by the end of the day. I know there was a list that was running around with Pokemon Catchers. Pokemon Catcher also isn't terrible. It's just also finding space for it in the list. 4 research, 3 Luminous Energy, 1 gift. The 1 of gift is so that you can go Grass, Fire, Gift onto this Regidrago, so you can be able to draw more cards by the end of the turn and keep your hand filled. So let's give this deck a try, shall we?
Hey everyone, so I decided to do audio over this since the file got corrupt, so I'm going to be explaining it here. So here I'm explaining that I'm looking through my deck, and I'm like, okay, I prized a steel, I prized X resource. I'm going to grab the fire energy because it's the one that's the least in the deck that's searchable as of right now. and just going over my prize cards. I figured from a mulligan that I was playing as Chien-Pao, which I went on to say is a very positive matchup for the deck. So I then proceed to go PokéStop into another Energy Search. So our hand is a little bit bricky, as you can see right now. Not a single Regi in hand in just a flood of energies. And our one of Boss, along with a Super Rod and 2 of our 4 switching cards and a research. So by the end of the day, everything is going to get pitched. On the bench, our opponent got the Frigibax, the Manaphy, the Squawkabilly, and the Chien-Pao. Led the Bidoof, which is the one that essentially has bench barrier. So they're going to manually retreat into the Chien-Pao and search their deck for 2 energies and put down the Skater's Park. They're also going to go Squawk and Seize here, discarding the Roxanne, which won't help them at all because I do play Gift Energy in the deck, along with Dragon's Horde or Regidrago. They're going to go Greninja into a Concealing cards, which will draw them 2. The Chivalry Cold ability, which is Chien-Pao's ability, search the deck for 2 water energy. And then it passes off to my turn. And from here, I'm like, okay, what do I need? I just need Steel and all the Regis. And technically, I can get the knockout here. So I'm debating. I'm like, should I do this? Like, should I go into Steel? Yeah, just in case I get it. And then I just pitch the entire hand. And I look and I'm like, oh, man, I'm just missing 1 Regi. And I'm like, okay, I have about an even odd. I have even odds at hitting either one of them, so I was going to grab it. From here I go, Trekking Shoes, and I'm like, oh, I hit the metal now. I just need the Reg Ice, and I hit the Trekking Shoe and double Rod, which really, really hurts off of stop, and then presume to go Trekking Shoe, discarding the water, and getting Iono, which unfortunately means I will not be getting the turn 2 knockout, and you have to be forced to use Regigate to get the Reg Ice out, unfortunately. And then this is where things, I just kind of like side-eyed. I'm like, really? A collapsed stadium in Chien-Pao? Typically, they do play triple copies of Skater Park, if not Lost City as well. Collapsed Stadium was just like, really? You had to play Collapsed Stadium of all the stadium cards. So our opponent goes in, they go Luminion, they're going to go Concealing cards here, and I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I need to stop, because I ended up discarding one earlier. I actually don't remember how that happened, though. I think I ended up using... No, because I didn't. I don't think I discarded the PokéStop. No, I think I prized one of the PokéStops here. No, I did discard one. And right off the bat, found the other PokéStop. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So now I just get the knockout. Just kind of looked at that PokéStop. I was like, whatever. I got double Rod in hand. I don't really need to put anything back other than the Dragos, because if you took the Dragos, then I'm out. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to grab the one of and the other 2 Dragos that I have, and then Iono, get rid of the big hand. Unfortunately, because of a barrel, they're still going to be able to draw out of it. And this hand is bananas. I get the heavy ball so I can get my other Steel out of the deck, out of the prize card, so I'm able to go into Chien-Pao, Ultra Ball the 2 energies, which allows me to grab any Regi I want. But at this point, I was like, I don't really need anything because I can get Nest Ball. So from here, I just use the Ancient Wisdom ability to slam down a Luminous Energy and whatever random energy that isn't going to be relevant in the matchup. So the Water Energy, and knock out the Chien-Pao because Chien-Pao is weak to Metal and has a 2 retreat. So you're hitting for 240. And off the prize cards, I hit the other Giga. So now we have every single Regi that we want inside of our deck, along with the search for whatever one that they end up knocking out in the long run. So they're going to go Ultra Ball, discarding some form of cards. Looks like a Frigibax in the water. And from here, I was like, okay, so they got Excalibur. This is kind of cute. If they slam down a Collapse Stadium, I'm going to flip a table, but that's okay. They're going to PokéStop and get the Vacuum and discard the Irida in the boss, which I was like, wow, they really risked that? And then they revealed they had a Candy in hand. I was like, why did they do that? The Vacuum also got rid of a Frigibax, so now they have 3 Frigibax revealed, 1 in the discard, 1 in the lost zone, and 1 on the board. So I'm like, if I just give it to the Excalibur, I don't see how I lose here, because there's been no signs of a Palkia at all. So they're going to go Irida, and I believe this is where things started to get a little confusing for me, because I was like, I haven't seen a build like this. Because I ended up getting Superior Energy Retrieval, and I believe that was a Kyogre, which Kyogre typically, it sees play inside of Chien-Pao, but it's not like... Well, you're just going to have to see it. I should say you're just going to have to see it. It's more or less a Chien-Pao Kyogre Excalibur deck than anything, which is at the time that I was like thinking about it, I was like, oh, they just play a one of Kyogre, it's fine, it's fine. Like they can snipe around it. It gets annoying, but it's fine by the end of the day because I have all the resources in the world to go. And then they're gonna go Dynamic Wave, and they select correctly, getting rid of the Lecky because at this point in time I am down 2 of my rods and 2 Lekis. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, cool. I hit the Lecky, but one thing that I completely forgot that I was doing in the moment was I was going to throw up the Regidrago. Not only to draw more cards, but because I had an Ultra Ball to replace it. From here, I have 2 Leckys in the discard pile, one of which being the one that gets the Super Rod out of the discard, and I decided to promote the Regieleki. And it didn't hit until I clicked the knockout. I was like, alright, cool, we get the knockout. Wait, I meant to throw up the Drago, because I also had the energy for Drago. So now if I don't have access to the rod, because I was under the impression it was prize, because I thought I prize checked it, but I think I was playing a previous game on the ladder with it. And I looked and I was like, wow, I'm touting 2 rods. Oh, and now I got 2 Leckys down. If they take this knockout, I might lose. So a little bit of missequencing on my part, which was really, really poor. Then we're going to see a Super Rod on the opponent, which is fine because it allows them to search for their Kyogre. Allows them to get, I don't know what the other resources were. It didn't show. That's one thing I kind of hate about live. And then we're going to see the Ultra Ball getting rid of the rope and the water energy. Why they didn't concealing cards before the Ultra Ball was kind of weird. Because I feel like you should use concealing cards before you use Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball can thin out a card, so if you're looking for something hyper-specific, cool, but it didn't look like they were looking for anything hyper-specific outside of the Kyogre, which they would have drawn a couple more cards to potentially hit the resources in order to get the Kyogre even more, outside of the Ultra Ball that they already had in the hand. So then I was sitting here, I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna go in Dynamic Wave the Regieleki. Now I just lose because I don't have a way to get this Eleki back. Like, as of right now, I believe I was under the impression that my last rod was prized, and then there was in the discard, so I was like, man, if they just take this knock-on on the Eleki, I think I lose. So then they Dynamic Wave, and they're thinking about it, and they target the Gigas. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, really? Why did they target the Gigas, of all things? So then I immediately Nest Ball for the Gigas, and then Trekking Shoes. I'm like, I don't really need the steal. And then I hit the Super Rod, and I was like, wait, I guess I didn't prize it. That was last game. And I learned from my mistake and immediately threw in the other Eleki, plus the other 2 1-ups that I had remaining in deck with the last Super Rod. And from there, I was like, you know what? I'm not making this mistake again. I got 2 Dragos sitting in the deck, and I'm going to swing for 160 and take the knockout with this, instead of risking having to put down another Eleki. Used Ancient Wisdom, and took the knockout with Giant Fangs. So it's, you know, it's just an option. I was able to get the Gift Energy on there, which also really, really helps. Allows me to hit my resources that I absolutely need. Here, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, if they promote something that isn't a 1-prize attacker, I could be in a very good position to win. Because at this point, I'm like, okay, it's 2 to 4. My resources are running very, very thin. I got the wrong Eleki down on the board. It was just because I let it, or I think I put it down. Yeah, I put it down, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to use Electromagnetic Sonar so I can grab my rod back or grab my 1-up boss and then boss around it. And I'm like, well, if they just have gusting cards, that could be very bad. And from here, I was just contemplating. I'm like, what is my gameplay? Like, I don't have access to Drago right now. Like, out of 11 cards in deck, I don't have access to Drago. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what are they doing? And then they dumped 7 energies on the board, 4 from Spirit Energy Retrieval, which I kind of expected, but I didn't expect everything to just come out at once like that. What I was fully expecting to see here was a Lumineon for on Iono, which did not happen. Which in turn, Gift Energy drew me 2 more cards, one of which being Serena. So I was like, okay, I got a gusting effect, so if I draw into a Drago, I win. Lo and behold, drew my last gusting card, being Serena, out of the 9 cards remaining in deck, and I was sitting here, I'm like, oh man, so I need to hit the Drago this turn. This Escape Rope really hurt my opponent because it came down to, do you want to get rid of your bench, Do you want to get rid of your bench barrier? Do you want to get rid of your draw? You want to get rid of Greninja, which I feel like Greninja would have been the safer play to throw up out of everything over the barrel. But from here, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, well, I need to hit this Drago, so I need to discard all these cards. I got Serena, discard Luminous Energy, research, and just ponder. I'm like, what exactly do I need? And I think my opponent is like thinking that I have game if I just Serena something up. But from here, I'm like, I'm just going to draw cards. And I just didn't draw anything, and they conceded. I was like, okay, so I had 5 cards left in deck. I had Trekking Shoes, which allowed me to see 2 more, but that wasn't a guarantee for Drago.
I thank everyone for watching. Please subscribe and like for more content. If you would like to see more decks from Paldea Evolved, leave it in the comment section below on what you would like to see. And I hope you enjoyed some rogue decks finally taking over the meta decks. Until then, see everyone later.